Hi folks, Steve here and welcome to part 1 of my Grimdark Diorama diary. So let's crack on. This video is a bit different as it's less of a how-to and more of a what I did kind of video, and I'm building this diorama as my entry for the invitational that's been hosted by Grimdark Film Club on Instagram. So if you haven't seen that yet, you should definitely check it out. The Grimdark Film Club invites artists who work in grimdark style, like myself, to discuss books, artwork, albums, and yes, even films that have inspired them and helped shape their view of what grimdark means for them. The brief for the invitational is to create something such as a miniature, a diorama, or a piece of art that's inspired by something else. This could be a book, a film, an artwork, a record, anything like that. My choice was the diorama, and my inspiration for this is the painting The Birth of Venus by Sandro Botticelli. And this is partly because I really like the painting, and it's also because I really like the idea of creating a diorama that portrays the birth of a god or maybe a demon prince, something hideous and sublime at the same time, and to have this set in the grimdark of the Warhammer universe. I started out by roughly sizing the base of the diorama. For this I was using XPS tiles, and the tiles are 10 by 10 centimeters. So this base is going to be 2.5 of those tiles, which makes it roughly 25 centimeters long and 10 centimeters across the other way. And then that allowed me to then measure out the foam core that I was going to use for the back of the model. I also cut out a piece of foam core to act as a base for the XPS foam, and I stuck the SPX foam down to that and held it in place with some cocktail sticks until the glue had dried. I sized up the foam core for the back and then started marking out the features that I wanted on the piece. The main things that I knew I wanted were going to be a kind of raised arch right at the back, and then 3 windows in the middle, a sort of larger one, and then slightly smaller ones on either side. So really just eyeballing it without too much of a plan. I just started drawing out and measuring up on the board, marking out where I wanted these bits to go so I could then cut them out. Once I had the full back wall cut out, including the windows, I cut some small strips of black card, and I used my hot glue gun to glue them across all the edges that had exposed foam, so the top of the board and the insides of the windows that I'd just cut out and everything like that. Sometimes with the hot glue gun you get little strings of glue left over or blobs of glue in places where you don't want them. To get rid of them, I normally just take a lighter and very carefully just run a flame across the area, just making sure I'm not going to catch fire on anything like paper or melt any foam. The glue becomes really soft and easy to move, and you can normally just wipe it away with your finger. I also used some cardstock from a cereal packet to cut out frames that I then glued around the windows as well. I then got to work with a craft knife, cutting a depression in the centre of the base. Going with the idea of the Birth of Venus, I want this demonic entity to be rising out of a pool in the centre. I'm going to use a shell as well that I found in my back garden, so I'm going to incorporate those kind of familiar elements from the original piece of artwork. And then near the end I want to do a resin pour, so there's going to be a water effect there in the centre that the model's coming out from. I checked everything was lining up how I wanted it, made any adjustments, and then cut 2 side panels as well to go on either side of the diorama. Once I was happy with the fit of everything, I then fixed it in place again using hot glue. this point I also started thinking about other details I would add, such as this piece that I took from some food packaging. I've cut a slice of the side off and measured it up to make sure it fit the corner of the diorama, and then cut it to size and glued it in place. Again, using black card, I covered any other remaining edges of the foam core on the sides of the diorama. At this point I began to put some other embellishments onto the foam core at the back. I used a couple of different things like some guitar string of various thicknesses cut to size and super glued in, as well as some cable ties as well. So cut the cable ties down into little iron girders and put them in place as well to make a suitable pattern with them. I also cut and shaped some paper drinking straws as well to make them look like pipes, and they were attached with super glue in various places. Next I decided I wanted to cut away a part of the floor so I could have some pipes and things coming out the bottom, just to create a little bit more visual interest. So I marked that out using a piece of plastic grating, which I'll be using over the top of it, and just use that as a guideline to make the cuts and remove the foam from the base. I applied floor tiles using PVA glue. These tiles were made from a Teflon sheet that's supposed to go in the bottom of an oven, and I've cut these into 1 inch by 1 inch squares to use them as tiles. With this side of the diorama almost being done, I now attached some bits from my bits box that I pulled out that I thought would be particularly suitable. This included 2 hooks, one that I put on the back wall and one on the side, and I then ran a small bit of jeweler's chain between the two and fixed that in place with super glue. With that being done, I feel like the left side of the diorama is finished for now. My idea was to have a transition running across it, so the left hand side is going to be an industrial architecture with lots of rust and things like that, whereas on the right hand side it's going to be more vegetation, a sort of Nurgly, Garden of Nurgle kind of effect, but we'll see how that goes, and I'll show you in future parts of my Grimdark Diorama diary. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like if you enjoyed the video, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thanks very much, bye.